Hi everyone, it's Elaine Hamilton. It's been a while. I got locked out of YouTube and then I couldn't, all kinds of things. But anyway, I wasn't sure how long it would take me to get cranking again, but here I am. A couple of things to talk about. And today I would like to talk about the mismatch between what our mind or our egos want for our lives and what actually is our life. And I know this is a topic we cover quite a lot, but it's come up a couple of times when I've been working with people. And so I thought it's time for a bit of a revisit. And essentially, the amount of suffering that we create for ourselves because we have in our mind a certain way that we feel our life should be going, and life has a very different idea and is showing up in a completely different way. Now, obviously, it's tough, right? When you have certain hopes and dreams, and this happens as you get older as well, and any time in life, really, you want something and it doesn't happen. Or you struggle and you try and achieve something, and then when you get it, it's not quite what you wanted, or wasn't quite what you feel is what you expected it to feel like, and then there's the disappointment. So oftentimes, life is showing us a very different path. Now, we've all had this experience, and then it's the flexibility or the capacity that we have to let our story of our life go. And it is one of those really interesting things in how challenging that is and how stubborn we are at hanging on to stories or expectations that are clearly not happening. And we hang on and we hang on and we hang on. And there's a certain level of bitterness that starts to creep in if you're not careful. If you think about people that you know who are more mature, more advanced in their life ages, and they're still hanging on from stuff that they didn't get as a child. Maybe their parents didn't treat them well, or they had some kind of trauma that happened, and they're hanging on. They're still living in that childlike disappointment of not getting something, or the childlike anger of not getting something. Now, if you had a tough upbringing, that's tough. And I'm not for a moment saying that I don't have empathy or sympathy for people that have had a really difficult upbringing. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is it happened. It happened. And it's not still happening. So every time you look back into something that happened in your childhood or something that happened even in your adulthood that you feel very strongly shouldn't have happened like that, but it did, then every time you go back, then you are creating suffering. So the incident isn't creating suffering because you're no longer there. And this is something that's really important to understand, is that the mind is creating that suffering based on a revisiting of a past event that has happened. It's no longer happening. You're no longer a child. You're no longer, hopefully, being treated poorly. And if you are being treated poorly, then at least as an adult, you have more resources to do something about it, right? Like you can either remove yourself from the situation, or you can realize that maybe there's something going on with people around you, relationships that are creating this need for them to be like that. But you have much more choices than you did as a child. So you no longer need to put yourself into those situations, and you have much more choice, right? So the constant revisiting is problematic, because what it means is that you're not actually living your life or the reality of your life as it is now. You're living in your head in some fantasy land, basically la la land, right? Because it's no longer the reality of your situation. And it's one of those things that if you can land this properly, it really allows you to live in the present moment, right? Because it allows you to see, yes, these things happened to me in my past, or there might be things that you're really disappointed about. If there was a certain job that didn't turn out well, or a certain relationship that didn't turn out well. I mean, as we get older, these regrets or these challenges or these uncomfortable events or even trauma start to build up because we go through life and life is up and down. So the up and downness of life happens to all of us. And for some of us, yes, it is true. We get dealt what seems to be a much tougher hand than other people. That's also true. Some of us are born into much better circumstances than others. But that's also a reality of life. So when you sit there and you think this is so unfair, or this shouldn't be happening to me, why is this happening to me? Why am I being punished? All these kinds of things, in those thoughts, you are creating your suffering. You're creating your own suffering over and over and over again. Some of us are just born into certain circumstances and some of us aren't. And that's just reality, right? That's just reality. Some of us are born with certain disabilities, some of us are born with certain illnesses, some of us are born with certain parents. I mean, we can't choose that stuff. And so really coming into the reality of your situation where you are now, appreciating and perhaps honoring and congratulating yourself if you've been through a very traumatic time and you've come through it, you've survived, here you are. And now what's in front of you? Like what's actually in front of you? And starting to live more in the present moment. Because whatever is going on in your life right here, right now, there will always be moments of gratitude and moments of things going well, right? Even if you're struggling with illness or you're struggling with job loss or you're struggling with financial problems, that might be an overriding concern that you've got. But then what else? Right? You're not living, breathing that all the time. So there is moments whereby things are pretty calm or things are pretty good. And these are the things to start really paying attention to and noticing when the mind keeps insisting on going backwards or keeps insisting on bringing up images or replaying certain patterns of thinking that then spiral you into it's not fair, this shouldn't have happened, or that kind of thing. Because essentially, that kind of thinking is just not helpful, right? I mean, it's not really creating anything very valuable for you. And so, with a little bit of training and with a little bit of discipline, you can start to catch what you're doing, right? And so, there is a possibility that as you start to catch yourself more and more, that you can also start to shift some of these belief systems or start to put them in their rightful place. And the rightful place of many of these is in the past. So it's kind of classic CBT in many ways, where it's focusing on what is actually happening now and helping to put a filing system in place, which is different from avoidance, it's different from denial. If things have happened to you in the past that are disappointing, you absolutely can honor it and you can grieve it. And when it comes up, you can feel that sadness or disappointment as it comes up. But then just beware of clinging onto it as almost like an excuse of why you're not connecting now. It's kind of like, oh, my dad did this to me when I was 7, and that's why at the age of 59 I can't do this, or this. That's kind of illogical, really. There are lots of things that we can heal from. There's lots of trauma that we can heal from if we do the work, so that we can start to see that this is the reality. The reality is we had these things happen to us, or these things that didn't happen to us. If it's the case of you wanted something really badly, but it just didn't work out. And that is what happened. And I don't know why it's so difficult to accept what happens, but it's almost like our mind goes off into the, but it shouldn't have happened. But logically, it did. You cannot, and we know this as well, right? You cannot go back in time and change what happened in the past. None of us can do this. We don't have that magic power. And yet the mind seems set, the ego seems set in feeling that affront, feeling that disappointment, feeling that it shouldn't have been like this. My life should be different. And then we beat ourselves up for it as well. Like, you should be better. You did this, you did that. It's awful. It's awful. And it's unnecessary because it's not going to change anything. However much you beat yourself up, or however much you beat other people up, or however much you resent the people that did this or that or the other, it will not change a thing. And we know this, and we continue to cling on with enormous stubbornness. So perhaps there's also some value in challenging yourself in what you think will happen if you let go of your disappointment, your bitterness, your resentments, whatever it is that you're carrying. What would happen if you let that go? Like, how would that be for you? And you might get some answers as to why you keep clinging on to it, and then to challenge those, right? Maybe it means you need to take more responsibility for your life, or maybe it means that you have to accept certain things that have happened that you feel shouldn't have happened. And all of these things help you to find more peace and find more acceptance and understanding in terms of what is actually happening. And it helps you to connect more deeply with what is happening right now. So no matter what happened in the past, no matter how disappointing your life seems to be turning out, in every moment of the day, there is an amazing capacity for life to continue to give you amazing experiences. Just waking up in the morning, just looking at the weather, just going for a walk, just connecting with loved ones. These things are just so full of like meaning and joy. But if we're constantly looking at the back behind us, going, that shouldn't have happened, this shouldn't have happened, then all that happens is that our focus and attention is not in what life continues to give us, but really on what life didn't give us back then. And that's a real shame, because you can go through your whole life like that. Like, we've all met people in senior age who are bitter and who are just talking about what happened to them when they were 7, what happened to them when they were 12, what happened to them when they were 20, and they're like 80 something, and they're still that's all that they can see, and they are missing enormous chunks of their life and their life now. The fact they're still living and breathing and able to be alive, wake up in the morning and see loved ones, they're missing all of that because they're so entrenched in their pattern of bitterness or their pattern of regret or their pattern of whatever it is that they're doing, living in their la la land world that isn't based on the reality of where they are now. So, yeah, I guess the message of the day is don't do that. Just don't do that. Live your life fully, live your life in the present moment. Just enjoy the little small things that you see every day. No matter how bad life is, you're still breathing, you're still conscious, you're still aware, right? We can still do lots and lots of things, even if things didn't quite work out in your fantasy of what your life was supposed to look like. Maybe take a look at what actually is working out in the reality of what your life is. So, blah, blah, blah. That's enough for me. Nice to be back. And yeah, cheers. See you next time. Thanks.